This serial killer thinks his victims are a happy meal. Enter a psychopath's head. Can you uncover his terrible idea that his victims are happy meals? This macabre obsession. Why? Can the police stop him before he kills again? Prepare for a terrifying trip into the human psyche. Will you expose the shocking truth? A psychotic serial killer and rapist called his victims human hamburgers and sold them to people who didn't know what they were getting themselves into. Joseph Joe Roy Metheny preyed on women in the Baltimore area of the United States who had a history of problems with substance abuse or alcoholism. The meatiest pieces of his victims' bodies were placed into a freezer by Metheny, who oddly went by the name Tiny, despite having a massive build and standing 6 feet and 1 inch tall. After that, he would grind up the human meat and combine it with ground pig and beef before forming the mixture into burger patties. Metheny, who was finally captured in December 1996, would then prepare the human hamburgers and sell them to unsuspecting customers from a roadside barbecue shack. These consumers had no idea that they were being pushed into cannibalism. Metheny was finally apprehended in December 1996 during the course of his trial. Metheny commented on the burgers by saying they were very good. The flavor of human flesh was very comparable to that of pork. If you combine them, there is no way for anyone to discern the difference. He added that he would never apologize for his horrible crime spree and that he truly loved murdering each of his victims. He also stated that he would never apologize for his horrifying crime spree. At the time of his sentencing, he also asserted that he had killed people because he enjoyed it, that he got a rush out of it, got a high out of it, and that he had no real excuse why other than, I like to do it. On December 19, 1996, Metheny was arrested and accused of the murder of 3 different women, in spite of the fact that he claimed to have been responsible for the deaths of 13 individuals. The authorities could only prosecute him for the murders of 2 people. Metheny was given a sentence of 50 years in prison. Metheny was given a sentence of 50 years in prison at first for the kidnapping and attempted sexual assault of Rita Kemper. However, he was later exonerated of her murder. He was sentenced to death for the murder of Kimberly Lynn Spicer. However, this sentence was eventually commuted to life in prison without the possibility of release. Metheny was given a second life term as a result of his guilty plea to the charges of murdering Kathy Ann Magaziner and robbing her. On August 5, 2017, guards at the Western Correctional Institution located in Cumberland, Maryland, discovered the body of Metheny inside his cell. He had been dead for some time. A prison officer in the facility where the 62-year-old inmate was serving 2 life sentences and had been spared execution after appealing his death sentence discovered that he was unresponsive. Metheny had described in a purported online confession how after killing the women, he stored their flesh in a freezer and opened up a little open pit beef stand. He asserts that when hog and human flesh are combined, no one can tell the difference between the 2 types of meat. In December of 1996, the body of Mr. Spicer was located, and a few days later, Mr. Metheny revealed to the police where the remains of Mrs. Magaziner were buried. He was found guilty not of murdering 2 homeless men with an axe prior to his conviction in the deaths of Mrs. Magaziner and Mrs. Spicer, despite the fact that he later claimed he was responsible for the crimes. Metheny's downfall began when he shared private information with a work colleague. Unaware of the gravity of the situation, Metheny had approached the coworker in need of a sympathetic ear. Metheny had no idea that his coworker was morally committed and felt an obligation to uphold the law. During their talk, Metheny revealed disturbing information regarding his participation in criminal activities like drug trafficking and money laundering. A coworker overheard their talk and swiftly informed the authorities, which ultimately led to Metheny's imprisonment. No time was wasted in opening a probe into Metheny's actions by law enforcement. The colleague's courageous confession had given investigators the information they needed to file charges. The news of Metheny's arrest spread like wildfire across the office, and his coworkers were shocked to learn of his criminal past. This anecdote emphasizes the significance of being selective about who you confide in and serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of trusting too easily. Methany's life was irrevocably altered because of a misunderstanding caused by his excessive trust. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you find it enjoyable.